In a move signaling deepening tensions on the Korean peninsula, North Korea has begun dismantling roads and train tracks that once connected it with South Korea. This action is not just a physical act, but a powerful statement reflecting the current state of affairs between the two nations. This action effectively severs even the limited physical connections that remain between the two countries. The dismantling of these vital links is a clear indication of the growing rift and the diminishing hopes for any near-term reconciliation. The move is widely seen as a symbolic and physical representation of the deteriorating relationship between the two Koreas. It underscores the increasing isolation of North Korea and the hardening of its stance against its southern neighbor. This development comes amidst a series of pronouncements from Pyongyang, labeling Seoul as a hostile force and a bad neighbor. The rhetoric has been escalating, with North Korea accusing South Korea of various provocations and unfriendly actions. The destroyed infrastructure includes sections of the Gyeonggi Line and the Donghai Line. These lines were once seen as potential pathways for economic cooperation and cultural exchange, but now they lie in ruins. These were two of the few passages that allowed for cross-border movement. Their destruction marks a significant regression in inter-Korean relations, erasing years of efforts to build bridges, both literally and figuratively. The Gyeonggi Line on the west side of the peninsula once connected Seoul to Pyongyang. It was a symbol of the potential for reunification and cooperation, a tangible link between the two capitals. The Donghai Line on the east side offered a potential route for tourism and economic exchange. It was envisioned as a corridor that could bring prosperity and mutual understanding. These connections were seen as symbols of hope for eventual reunification. They represented the dreams of many Koreans who longed for a peaceful and united peninsula. However, they have been largely dormant for years due to political stalemates. The lack of progress in diplomatic talks has left these once promising projects in a state of neglect. The demolition of these passages represents a significant setback for any hopes of reconciliation. It is a stark reminder of the fragile nature of peace efforts and the ease with which progress can be undone. It underscores the depth of the current impasse. The physical destruction of these links is a manifestation of the deep-seated mistrust and animosity that continue to plague inter-Korean relations. The move also effectively cuts off even the possibility of future cooperation or engagement, unless North Korea chooses to rebuild these connections. The chances of such a reversal seem slim, given the current climate. The destruction of infrastructure represents a hardening of positions, and a pessimistic outlook on the future of inter-Korean relations. It signals a retreat into isolation and a rejection of dialogue. The move has been met with concern from South Korea and the international community. There are fears that this could lead to further instability and conflict in the region. Many fear it could further escalate tensions on the peninsula. The international community is watching closely, hoping for a de-escalation but preparing for the worst. The dismantling of the roads and railways is a stark reminder of the deep divisions that still exist between North and South Korea. It highlights the human cost of political conflict, with families remaining separated and hopes for reunification dashed. It serves as a potent symbol of the challenges that lie ahead in achieving a lasting peace. The road to reconciliation is fraught with obstacles, and the recent actions by North Korea have made that journey even more difficult. North Korea's decision to sever physical connections with the South is rooted in its deep-seated distrust and animosity towards Seoul. This distrust has been cultivated over decades, with each side viewing the other through a lens of suspicion and hostility. Pyongyang has increasingly framed South Korea as a hostile force and a direct threat to its national security. This narrative is not just a recent development but has been a cornerstone of North Korean propaganda for many years. This perception is fueled by several factors, including the South's military alliance with the United States, which North Korea views as a direct challenge to its sovereignty and security. Its participation in joint military exercises further exacerbates these tensions. These drills are seen by Pyongyang as rehearsals for an invasion, heightening their sense of vulnerability. Additionally, South Korea's continued economic sanctions against the North are perceived as an attempt to cripple its economy and undermine its sovereignty. These sanctions have had a significant impact on the North Korean economy, contributing to the regime's sense of being under siege. North Korea views the presence of U.S. troops in South Korea as a provocative act. The large-scale military presence is seen as a constant reminder of the potential for conflict. It sees joint military drills as rehearsals for an invasion. These exercises are often portrayed in North Korean media as aggressive maneuvers aimed at overthrowing the regime. The continued economic sanctions, imposed in response to the North's nuclear and missile programs, are perceived as an attempt to cripple its economy and undermine its sovereignty. These sanctions have led to significant economic hardship, further entrenching the regime's narrative of external threats. This perception of an existential threat has been a constant theme in North Korean propaganda for decades. The regime uses this narrative to justify its military expenditures and to rally the population around a common enemy. However, recent rhetoric from Pyongyang has taken on a particularly sharp tone. The language used in official statements and speeches has become increasingly aggressive, reflecting the heightened tensions. The label of bad neighbor reflects a belief that South Korea is actively working against its interests and cannot be trusted. This sentiment is reinforced by state media and propaganda, which frequently depict South Korea in a negative light. This narrative has been reinforced by recent incidents, including the infiltration of propaganda leaflets. These leaflets, often containing anti-regime messages, are seen as direct attacks on the North Korean government, and the alleged incursions of drones into North Korean airspace. These incidents are portrayed as deliberate provocations, further fueling the regime's narrative of external threats. North Korea's leadership sees these actions as deliberate provocations designed to undermine its stability. The regime uses these incidents to justify its own aggressive actions and to rally domestic support. This perception is further compounded by what it perceives as Seoul's unwillingness to challenge Washington's policies. North Korea views South Korea's alignment with the US as a betrayal of Korean unity. This stance, in Pyongyang's view, makes South Korea complicit in the perceived hostility towards the North. The regime frequently accuses South Korea of being a puppet of the United States. This view of South Korea as a willing participant in its own subjugation forms the crux of North Korea's current stance. The regime uses this narrative to justify its own aggressive policies and to maintain internal cohesion. It justifies its increasingly aggressive posture towards its southern neighbor. This aggressive stance is portrayed as a necessary defense against external threats, reinforcing the regime's narrative of perpetual conflict.